Hello, I'm Lise Doucette in Jerusalem. It's 11 a.m. in the morning in Israel and in the Gaza Strip. Our top story this hour, the Israeli military says it has carried out what it described as a significant incursion into the Gaza Strip overnight to attack the positions of Hamas. Speaking a short time ago to the BBC, an Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson said soldiers carried out the tactical raid towards central Gaza to, in his words, prepare the battlefield for future operations. Take a listen.
We did a tactical raid, which means that the forces went in and then went out during the night in order to prepare the battlefield and to prepare ourselves for coming operations. Our forces are now back in Israel. The activity occurred during the night and was concluded successfully without any significant events.
It's not the first time the IDF has carried out what it describes as limited ground raids into Gaza, but this development comes as the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insisted that a ground invasion of Gaza was coming, following questions here in Israel and abroad about why it was taking so long. The Prime Minister, speaking on primetime television here in Israel on Wednesday night, said the timing of the offensive was still to be determined, and it would be reached by consensus. There's many pressures on Israel's political and military leaders to delay this widely anticipated attack by ground. For the latest, here's our correspondent, Tom Bateman.
Israel's Prime Minister said in a televised speech that Israeli forces are still preparing for a ground invasion, but didn't give any clues as to the timing.
We are raining hellfire on Hamas. We have already killed thousands of terrorists, and this is only the beginning. Simultaneously, we are preparing for a ground invasion. I will not elaborate on when, how, or how many.
Israel's bombardment of the Gaza Strip has continued. The UN says the most intensive yet in the past 24 hours, with hundreds of people killed. The Qatari news network Al Jazeera said the family of its correspondent was killed in a strike on a refugee camp in the Strip. Meanwhile, the United Nations says its fuel reserves in Gaza are nearly out, and it has begun reducing its humanitarian operations. Hospitals are stopping all but emergency operations, with the UN warning that more hospitals and shelters could be forced to close. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said that without fuel, babies in incubators who need life support will simply die, reiterating that safe and sustained access is needed, or it says there will be more suffering and death in Gaza.
To treat patients, you need electricity. For surgical theaters, you need electricity. For incubators, for dialysis machines. So we need fuel. Fuel is also needed to desalinate the water, so hospitals have a clean water. Clean water is of vital importance in hospitals to keep patients safe and provide health services.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has also reiterated its call for Hamas to release all of the hostages abducted from Israel on humanitarian and health grounds. It warns that many of the hostages had pre-existing health conditions. There have been further calls now for a humanitarian pause in the fighting to allow more aid in. But for now, the war goes on. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Jerusalem.